All right, so whether you spend your free time like me, getting lost in those crazy realistic video games, or maybe you're just blown away by, like, how AI is learning to do, well, practically everything these days, chances are you've bumped into the name NVIDIA.
Yeah, it seems like they're everywhere.
They really are. So today we're going to take a deep dive into NVIDIA. We'll figure out why their stock is, considered such a hot commodity and what you should know about them, both the potential and the risks.
Sounds good. Well, to start, I think it's pretty fascinating how NVIDIA has evolved. They were founded back in 1993, and they were laser focused on, those graphics processing units, those GPUs. And of course, those GPUs, they completely revolutionized gaming visuals.
Okay, I get the whole gaming connection, but how did they go from, making games look awesome to like powering AI and self-driving cars? That seems like a pretty big leap.
It is, and it all comes down to understanding how GPUs went from, like, rendering pixels to crunching massive data sets. So think of it this way, right? AI needs a ton of processing power to learn and make decisions. And that's where NVIDIA's GPUs are just, like, perfect. They're uniquely designed to handle those super complex calculations that drive machine learning algorithms.
So basically, instead of just making things look amazing on the screen, NVIDIA's tech is now working behind the scenes to make AI actually work.
Exactly. It's a pretty remarkable shift, and it's one of the biggest reasons why their stock is so valuable these days. But it goes beyond just AI, too.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, think about data centers, those massive buildings that store everything on the cloud. Companies like, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they depend heavily on NVIDIA's technology to manage those enormous operations.
Wait, so they're powering my gaming PC and my Netflix binges. That's pretty wild. But what about those partnerships you mentioned earlier? What makes them so special?
Those partnerships are pure gold for NVIDIA. Take their work with Tesla, for example. They're not just, supplying chips. They're really working together to create special AI platforms specifically for self-driving cars.
So they're giving NVIDIA like a huge edge in that market.
Exactly.
So it's not just about selling the hardware. It's about shaping the future of like entire industries. That's a pretty powerful position to be in.
It really is, and it doesn't stop there. They've also partnered with, Mercedes-Benz and a bunch of other companies, and they're pushing the boundaries of what self-driving cars can do even further. They're really going all in on the future of transportation, and so far, it seems like those bets are paying off.
It all sounds super promising, but let's be real for a second. Are there any downsides? Could this like incredible growth hit a snag?
Of course. I mean, while their, trajectory is impressive, there are always challenges. The competition is fierce, with companies like AMD and Intel constantly innovating in the GPU market. Plus, there's a whole global landscape to consider.
Right, like supply chain issues and stuff.
Exactly. Supply chain disruptions, like the ones we've seen recently, they can impact any company, no matter how big or successful.
Right, we can't forget about those real world things that can just like throw everything off. So even with all the amazing things NVIDIA is doing, there's still some uncertainty.
Absolutely. The tech sector is known for being pretty volatile. Today's, hot stock can be tomorrow's cautionary tale. That's why it's super important to look past the hype and really understand what's driving a company's growth.
Makes sense. So let's shift gears a bit and talk about what this all means for, someone who's actually thinking about investing in NVIDIA. Is their stock like a golden ticket, or is it more of a risky gamble?
Well, that's a question that a lot of investors are, trying to figure out right now. And honestly, there's no simple answer. It really depends on your own personal financial goals and your tolerance for risk.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground, but I think it's time to like actually look at the numbers. Financials can be kind of intimidating, but I'm ready to give it a shot. What's the deal with NVIDIA's financials? Are they really as good as everyone says?
Yeah, in short, their financials are, really strong. Their revenue has been skyrocketing. And that's mostly because of the huge demand for their GPUs, like we were talking about.
Right, those chips are powering like everything from our gaming PCs to those massive data centers and AI development.
Exactly, and the market is just eating it up.
So it's not just hype, they're actually delivering. What kind of numbers are we talking about? Anything that like jumps out?
Well, their last quarterly report showed a huge jump in revenue, even more than analysts were predicting.
Wow.
And what's really interesting is the growth in their data center segment. It really shows just how much businesses and even regular people are relying on cloud computing and AI these days.
That makes sense. More stuff moving to the cloud means companies like NVIDIA, the ones providing the infrastructure for those services, are, raking it in. But wait, what about their, like, gaming market? That's where they started, right? Have they completely ditched their roots?
Not at all. Gaming is still a major part of their business, but it's true that the data center and AI segments are growing the fastest. Some analysts are even saying that data center revenue will soon be their biggest moneymaker.
Wow, that's a pretty big change. So if someone's thinking about investing in NVIDIA, should they be focusing more on the data center and AI side of things instead of gaming? Is that where their real potential is?
Well, I think it's important to look at the whole picture. Gaming is a more established market for NVIDIA, but it's still a massive industry with plenty of room to grow, especially as things like cloud gaming and virtual reality become more and more popular.
So even though data centers and AI are the hot topics right now, investors shouldn't just forget about gaming.
Right. It's all about understanding the different parts of their business and how they all contribute to their success. A smart investor would consider all of those factors before making a decision.
Got it. So with all this growth and potential, what could possibly slow NVIDIA down? What are some of the risks investors should know about?
Well, competition is always a factor. Companies like, AMD and Intel are right there with them, constantly innovating. The tech world moves so fast, so NVIDIA can't afford to just sit back and relax.
They're going to keep pushing forward if they want to stay on top.
Exactly. But there are also external factors, things outside their control that could affect how well they do.
Oh, right. Like what?
Well, government regulations can have a big impact, especially when it comes to AI. As AI gets more powerful, governments are, scrambling to figure out how to regulate it, which could create some uncertainty for companies like NVIDIA.
Yeah, the rules of the game could change at any moment. And we can't forget about those supply chain disruptions we talked about earlier.
Right? Those global events can have a huge impact, and NVIDIA isn't immune to them. It's a good reminder that even the most promising companies can be affected by things outside their control.
So it sounds like investing in NVIDIA, or any tech company really, comes with a certain amount of risk. How should our listeners think about this if they're considering adding NVIDIA to their portfolio?
Well, the first thing is to really be honest with yourself about your own financial goals and how much risk you're comfortable with. Are you looking for quick profits, or are you in it for the long haul? How much risk are you willing to take on? Those are some really important questions to answer before making any investment decisions.
That makes sense. Don't just follow the hype. Figure out what works for you.
Exactly. And remember, diversification is key.
Yeah.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket, no matter how tempting it might seem. Spreading your investments across different types of assets is a good way to manage risk.
So even if you're really confident about NVIDIA's long-term potential, it's still a good idea to diversify your investments. Okay, so let's shift gears a little and talk about the future. What's next for NVIDIA? They seem to be involved in so many cutting-edge areas. What are they focusing on these days?
Well, one area where NVIDIA is really making waves is the metaverse. They're developing the technology and platforms that will power those immersive virtual experiences.
The metaverse, that's like the whole virtual world thing everyone's been talking about. How is NVIDIA involved in that? Isn't it mostly about gaming and entertainment?
It definitely has the potential to change gaming and entertainment, but it goes way beyond that. Imagine virtual offices, meetings, conferences, even entire industries operating in these digital spaces.
That's pretty wild.
The possibilities are mind-blowing, and that's where NVIDIA's expertise in high-performance computing comes in. Creating and maintaining these complex virtual worlds requires a ton of processing power, and NVIDIA is in a great position to provide that.
So they're not just building the hardware, they're building the whole foundation for the metaverse.
Yeah, and it fits perfectly with their idea of connecting people through these shared virtual experiences. And it's not just about entertainment and collaboration. Think about the potential for things like training, education, and even healthcare in the metaverse. It could totally revolutionize how we learn, work, and interact with each other.
It's a pretty amazing vision. But let's be real, the metaverse is still pretty new. Are there any potential downsides or risks with this technology that investors should be aware of?
Of course, like any new technology, the metaverse comes with its own challenges. Things like privacy concerns, security risks, and the potential for misuse are all valid concerns that need to be addressed.
That's a good point. It's important to be aware of the potential downsides along with all the exciting possibilities. So investors who are intrigued by the metaverse should definitely do their homework and understand the risks involved.
Absolutely. And there's another area where NVIDIA is investing heavily, quantum computing.
Quantum computing, that sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. What exactly are they doing in that space?
Well, they're developing the hardware and software needed to build and operate quantum computers. And these quantum computers, as we touched on earlier, that could be even more revolutionary than AI.
Yeah.
It's still very early, but the possibilities are huge. Imagine solving problems that are impossible for even the most powerful computers we have today. That's the power of quantum computing.
That's mind-blowing. So NVIDIA is at the forefront of not just one, but two of the most groundbreaking technologies of our time. The metaverse and quantum computing, they're really going all in on the future.
They are. And it's a really exciting time to be following their journey. But it also brings up some big questions. How do we prepare for a future shaped by these technologies? What skills will we need? What ethical considerations should we be thinking about?
Those are really important questions, and it's not just for tech experts or investors to think about. These technologies will affect all of us. So what can we as individuals do to prepare for all this rapid change?
I think the most important thing is to stay informed, stay curious, and be adaptable. Embrace lifelong learning and develop the skills that will be in high demand in the future. Things like creativity, critical thinking, problem solving, and collaboration. These are the skills that will help you stand out in a world that's increasingly driven by automation and AI.
That's great advice. It's not about being afraid of the future. It's about being ready for it and giving ourselves the tools and the right mindset to thrive in this new era.
Exactly. The future is full of potential, and it's up to us to shape it in a way that benefits everyone.
Well said. And that wraps up part 2 of our NVIDIA Deep Dive. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been digging into everything NVIDIA, from, their early days in gaming to their huge push into AI, data centers, and even those crazy worlds of the metaverse and quantum computing.
Yeah, it's been a pretty wild ride, and honestly, we've only scratched the surface.
Oh, sure.
But I think we've given everyone a good starting point for, understanding what makes NVIDIA so interesting.
Definitely. But for those listening who, want to learn even more, where should they go? What resources would you recommend?
Well, a good place to start is NVIDIA's own website.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They've got detailed financial reports, presentations for investors, even blog posts from their engineers and scientists.
Oh, wow.
It's a goldmine of information.
Sounds like it. What about for those of us who want to, dig a little deeper into the whole landscape, like if we want to understand those bigger trends like AI and the metaverse?
Oh, there are tons of great resources out there, both,
Yeah.
Online and in libraries. If you're interested in AI, I'd definitely recommend checking out the websites for organizations like the Association for the Advancement of Artificial Intelligence and the Partnership on AI. They offer a lot of insight into, the latest developments, ethical considerations, and how AI could impact society.
Those are some great suggestions. What about for people who are fascinated by the metaverse? Any recommendations for where to learn more about that?
Absolutely. There are a zillion articles and blog posts coming out every day about the metaverse. But if you're looking for something a little more academic, I'd recommend checking out some research papers from universities and think tanks.
Yeah, I bet they're really diving deep into all the potential impacts, like the social, economic, and technological stuff.
Exactly. They really are going deep on that stuff.
It sounds like there's a ton of information out there for anyone who wants to learn more, whether they're, seasoned investors, tech enthusiasts, or just curious about this stuff.
Definitely. And that's really what this deep dive has been all about. Sparking curiosity, encouraging everyone to explore, and giving you the tools to be a part of the conversation about technology and how it's shaping our lives.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Who knows? Maybe someone listening right now will be the next big innovator, the next visionary who shapes the technological landscape for generations to come.
That's a pretty inspiring thought. And on that note, this has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening.